Picture this. A cherry red 1967 Corvette Stingray. Its curves gleaming under the California sun. The low growl of its V8 engine vibrating through your chest like a heartbeat. For me, Emily Harper, that car wasn't just metal and chrome, it was my soul. My triumph. My connection to a man who saw me when no one else did. I'm 32, a self-made financial analyst in San Diego, and I spent 7 grueling years saving every dime to own that dream. But when I came back from a career-defining trip to Singapore, my world shattered. My family, my own flesh and blood, had stolen that car from me. Or so they thought. What they didn't know was that they'd sold the wrong car, setting off a chain of events that would expose betrayals, force tough choices, and change our family forever. Buckle up, because this is a story of passion, betrayal, and redemption you won't forget. I was 8 years old when my grandpa, Frank Sullivan, first pulled up in his battered 1950s Ford pickup. The kind that rumbled like it was daring the world to mess with it. Every Saturday, he'd take me to his garage in Oceanside, where he breathed life back into vintage cars. While other kids were glued to Saturday morning cartoons, I was elbow deep in engine oil, learning the difference between a carburetor and a fuel pump. Grandpa called me Emmy, his voice warm with pride. Cars aren't just machines, Emmy, he'd say. They've got stories, souls. I believed him, especially when he showed me his pride and joy, a 1967 Corvette Stingray. Candy apple red, with curves that seemed to dance in the light. The first time I saw it, I whispered a promise to myself, one day, I'll own one just like it. That promise became my North Star. But my parents, Tom and Linda Harper, didn't get it. To them, my love for cars was unladylike. A phase I'd outgrow. Why can't you be into something normal, like fashion or dance? Mom would sigh, wiping her hands on a dish towel as I came home with grease-stained jeans. Dad would just shake his head, his silence louder than words. Their disappointment stung, but it was nothing compared to how they doted on my younger sister, Chloe, 5 years my junior. Chloe was their golden girl, delicate, feminine, everything they wanted in a daughter. When Chloe begged for ballet lessons at 6, they enrolled her in the fanciest studio in town. When I asked for auto shop classes at 12, Mom laughed it off, saying, "We can't afford that kind of thing." Chloe got designer dresses. I got thrift store flannels. Chloe got a lavish Sweet 16 with a live band. I got a homemade cake and a $20 gift card. Chloe got a shiny new SUV for her high school graduation. I got a lecture about responsibility and student loans. I loved Chloe. Don't get me wrong. She wasn't the problem. It was the way our parents' favoritism cast a shadow over me. So, I left for college at UC San Diego, determined to carve my own path. I juggled 3 jobs, waitressing, tutoring, and freelance bookkeeping, while maintaining a 4.0 in finance. After graduation, I landed a job at a top-tier investment firm in downtown San Diego. The hours were brutal. 80-hour weeks weren't uncommon, but the paycheck was worth it. I lived like a monk, sharing a cramped apartment with roommates, cooking ramen, and skipping vacations. Every spare dollar went into a savings account labeled Stingray Fund. While my colleagues splurged on beachfront condos or European getaways, I kept my eyes on the prize. 7 years later, at 30, I found it, a 1967 Corvette Stingray, red as a summer sunset, listed by a collector in Nevada. The price? $92, every cent I'd saved. The day I drove it home, I felt Grandpa Frank's spirit riding shotgun. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "We did it, Grandpa." That car was more than a purchase, it was proof of my grit, my independence, and a love letter to the man who'd believed in me when no one else did. Enter Ryan Carter, my boyfriend of 2 years. We met at a car show in La Jolla, bonding over his own 1967 Stingray, a replica, not an original, worth about $35. Ryan got me. He understood why I'd rather spend a Sunday tuning my engine than shopping at the mall. He respected the Stingray's sentimental value. And together, we geeked out over chrome polish and vintage hubcaps. For 2 years, I babied that car, driving it only on clear days and storing it in a climate-controlled garage during San Diego's rare storms. I never imagined the biggest threat to my treasure would come from my own family. It started with a call from my boss, Michelle, on a sunny Tuesday in March 2025. "Emily, I need you in Singapore," she said, her tone brisk. "We're pitching to a major client, and they want someone who can bridge American and Asian business cultures." I'd taken Mandarin in college, enough to hold a conversation, and my track record at the firm made me the top pick. This was huge, a $15 million deal that could fast-track me to a corner office. But it meant 3 weeks away from home, and with recent car break-ins in my neighborhood, I couldn't leave my Stingray unprotected. After some thought, I decided to store it at my parents' house in Encinitas, a quiet suburb with a spacious garage. Ryan and I hatched a plan. We'd swap my authentic Stingray for his replica, which looked nearly identical to the untrained eye. If anyone snooped around, they'd see a Stingray, but not my priceless original. I drove the 45 minutes to Encinitas, where Dad was trimming the hedges. He admired the car as I pulled in. "Still a stunner," he said, running a hand along the hood. "Your grandpa would be proud." Mom appeared at the door, apron on, surprised to see me. I explained the Singapore trip and asked to leave the car in their garage. "Of course," Dad said. "Plenty of room since Chloe moved to her new place." I gave Dad strict instructions. "Start the car once a week for 15 minutes. Don't drive it, and use the custom cover I'd brought. Insurance is tricky," I said. "No one touches it." Dad nodded, a bit annoyed. "I know how to handle a car, Emily. It'll be fine." Mom chimed in about my trip, not grasping its significance. 3 weeks is so long. "Can't you come home on weekends?" I explained that international deals didn't work that way, and she finally relented. That night, Chloe joined us for dinner. Fresh out of college, she was working as a junior event planner. Her first, real, job. She whined about work stress and how her friends were planning a luxury Caribbean cruise she couldn't afford. "It's so unfair," she sighed, twirling her hair. Mom clucked sympathetically, suggesting Dad might help out. Dad dodged, mentioning their ongoing patio renovation. Before I left, Ryan confirmed he'd swap the cars the next day. "Your baby's safe with me," he said. I boarded my flight to Singapore, confident everything was under control. Singapore was a whirlwind. The pitch went flawlessly, securing a $15 million contract. And Michelle hinted at a promotion to Vice President of Global Accounts. I called home regularly, and Mom and Dad assured me the car was fine. Mom's last text was odd, though. "Big surprise waiting for you." I assumed it was a welcome home party. My flight landed at San Diego International at 3 p.m. on a bright April afternoon. Exhausted but buzzing with excitement, I took a cab straight to Encinitas, texting Ryan to meet me there to swap the cars back. As we pulled into the driveway, my heart sank. The garage door was open, revealing Dad's truck and Mom's sedan, but no Stingray. I paid the driver and stormed to the front door, suitcase in tow. Mom greeted me with a hug, but I barely reciprocated. "Where's my car?" I demanded. Her face flickered, defensive, almost smug. "Come inside, sweetheart," she said, dodging the question. Dad was in his armchair, newspaper in hand, his smile tight. "Dad, where's my Stingray?" I pressed, a knot forming in my gut. He cleared his throat, glancing at Mom, who was fussing with a tray of cookies like this was a normal visit. "Well, honey," Dad started, his voice too high. Something came up. The knot tightened. "What does that mean?" Mom turned, chin up, ready to defend herself. "Chloe needed help," she said. "A once-in-a-lifetime chance." I stared, uncomprehending. "What does Chloe have to do with my car?" Mom pulled out her phone, showing me Chloe's Instagram. There was my sister, posing on a cruise ship in the Caribbean, margarita in hand, designer sunglasses gleaming. "Thanks to your car," Mom said with a sneer. "Our daughter's having the time of her life." The words hit like a punch. "You sold my car?" I whispered, shock stealing my voice. Dad tried to soothe me. "Now, Emily, try to understand." Chloe was struggling. Her friends were all going on this cruise. And she'd have been left out. It would have crushed her. So you sold my car? I shouted, my voice breaking. Mom waved a hand. You can buy another one. You make good money. They admitted to forging my signature. Selling the car for $50, far below its $92 value, to fund Chloe's trip. They claimed it was to help her network and cope with work stress. I was shaking, my vision blurring. That car was my connection to Grandpa. I said, voice cracking. It was 7 years of sacrifice. And you had no right. It was in my name. Mom scoffed. It's just a car, Emily. Family matters more. Chloe needed this. Dad mumbled. We told the buyer you authorized us to handle it. My phone buzzed. Ryan. Texting. Just pulled up. Where's the Stingray? And then it hit me. Like a spark in the dark. I started laughing. A strange, tension-filled sound. Mom snapped. What's so funny about your sister's happiness? I took a deep breath. A calm settling over me. What's funny, Mom, is that you didn't sell my car. You sold Ryan's. The air in my parents' Encinitas living room was thick with tension. I stood there, trembling with rage, as my mom, Linda, clutched her phone, showing me Instagram photos of my sister Chloe sipping cocktails on a Caribbean cruise ship. My dad, Tom, sat in his armchair, avoiding my gaze. They'd sold what they thought was my 1967 Corvette Stingray, my $92 dream. My connection to my late Grandpa Frank, for a measly $50 to pay for Chloe's vacation. You forged my signature, I said, voice shaking. You committed fraud. For Chloe. Mom's chin lifted defiantly. Family comes first. Emily. Chloe was depressed. She needed this. Dad mumbled. We thought you'd understand. Then came the bombshell. They hadn't sold my car. Thanks to a security swap with my boyfriend, Ryan Carter. They'd sold his replica Stingray. Worth $35. Ryan stood beside me in the driveway. His jaw tight. As I explained, you stole from him, I said, pointing at Ryan, not me. Mom's face crumpled. We didn't know, she whispered. Dad looked like he'd aged a decade. We could go to jail, he said, voice hollow. Ryan nodded. Auto theft over $20 is a felony in California. Add wire fraud for the bank transfer, up to 15 years each. My phone buzzed. A man named Peter Donovan, the buyer, was calling about a problem with the title transfer. My parents' eyes widened in panic. I had a choice. Throw them under the bus or find a way to fix this without destroying my family. Mr. Donovan, I said carefully, there's been a misunderstanding. Can I call you back in an hour? He agreed, and I hung up, turning to my parents' desperate faces. You're going to tell me everything, I said, and then we're going to figure out how to make this right. The next afternoon, Ryan and I sat in the sleek downtown office of Jessica Nguyen, a criminal lawyer I'd met at a charity gala 2 years ago. Her sharp eyes scanned the notes she'd taken as we recounted the saga. Let's be clear, Jessica said, leaning back. Your parents committed grand theft auto and wire fraud. Minimum, forging your signature and using a fake bill of sale with an incorrect VIN number? That's serious. They're looking at up to 15 years per charge. Though their clean records might lighten the sentence. My stomach churned. I was furious. But the thought of Mom and Dad in orange jumpsuits made me nauseous. What are our options? I asked. Jessica laid it out. Option 1. Press criminal charges and let the courts handle it. Option 2. Sue them civilly for the car's value plus damages. Option 3. Resolve it privately with a binding agreement for restitution. No option erases their liability. But without a formal complaint. The DA's unlikely to pursue it. Ryan leaned forward. What about Donovan? He's the innocent party here. Jessica nodded. He bought a stolen car with fraudulent documents. The cleanest fix is to unwind the sale, refund his $50 and get the car back. But your parents need to come up with the money fast. Or Donovan could go to the police himself. Ryan and I exchanged a glance. Prison wasn't what we wanted. But letting them off scot-free wasn't an option either. We'll try private resolution, I said, but they need to face consequences. Jessica agreed to draft a settlement agreement. Our plan: meet Donovan in person. Be honest about the mix-up. and demand my parents pay him back, plus extra for his trouble. Ryan added one condition: a notarized apology from my parents, promising never to touch our property again. Non-negotiable, he said, his voice firm. Before we could move forward, I needed to deal with Chloe. She was still on her cruise, posting carefree selfies while our family unraveled. I called her via the ship's satellite phone, catching her amid laughter and clinking glasses. "Chloe, we need to talk," I said, barely containing my anger. "Mom and Dad sold Ryan's car to pay for your trip. It's theft. They could go to jail." She laughed, dismissive. "Oh, come on, Emily. It's just a car. You can buy another one." My blood boiled. It wasn't mine, it was Ryan's. And it's not just a car. It's a crime. Her tone shifted, panic creeping in. "Jail? That's ridiculous. They were helping me." I cut her off. "You manipulated them, whining about your stress, and how you needed this cruise. You're 27, Chloe. Get off the ship at the next port and fly home. You're helping fix this," she protested. But I was done. "This isn't optional. Be here, or face the consequences with them." I hung up, texting her the details. She needed to grow up, fast. The next day, Ryan and I drove to a coffee shop in Riverside, halfway between San Diego and Donovan's home in Palm Springs. Peter Donovan was a wiry man in his 50s, a car enthusiast with a no-nonsense vibe. We explained the situation. My parents thought they were selling my car, forged documents, and sold his replica by mistake. His face reddened. "So I bought a stolen car?" he snapped. "I paid $50, registered it, insured it. This is a nightmare. We're here to make it right," Ryan said calmly. "We'll refund your $50 plus $5 for your trouble. But we need the car back. It's mine." Donovan hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, but I want the money wired first." We agreed, shaking hands. Now, the ball was in my parents' court. Back at their house, Mom and Dad were a wreck. $55? Mom gasped. "We don't have that kind of money." Dad mentioned their patio renovation had drained their savings. "You said you could take a home equity loan," I reminded them, "or sell something. This isn't my mess to clean up." They balked, especially at Ryan's demand for a notarized apology. "That's humiliating," Mom said. Ryan didn't flinch. "Not as humiliating as prison." 2 days later, Chloe flew home, her tan and designer sunglasses a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. We gathered at my apartment for a family meeting, Jessica's settlement agreement in hand. My parents would take a $40 home equity loan. Chloe would contribute $10 from her savings, likely funded by Mom and Dad over the years. And Mom would sell her prized sapphire necklace to cover the remaining $5. The notarized apology was non-negotiable. Chloe was defiant at first. "Why am I being punished? I didn't sell the car," she snapped. "You guilt-tripped them into it." I shot back. "You're an adult, Chloe. Act like one." The room grew quiet as I laid bare the truth. Mom and Dad's favoritism had coddled her while dismissing me. "You've always given her everything," I said, voice steady but raw. "And you took from me to do it." Dad spoke up, his voice heavy. "You're right, Emily. We thought we were helping Chloe. But we hurt you. We were wrong." Mom's eyes welled up, but she didn't argue. For the first time, they seemed to see me. Chloe, too, softened, admitting she'd leaned on their support without questioning it. It wasn't easy, but that night, we started family therapy, peeling back years of resentment and unspoken truths. Over the next week, the plan came together. Mom sold her necklace, tears in her eyes as she handed over the last $5. Dad secured the loan, taking a weekend construction job to cover payments. Chloe transferred her savings, grumbling but compliant. Jessica finalized the paperwork, and we met Donovan again to return his money and retrieve Ryan's car, undamaged. Thankfully, at the lawyer's office, Mom and Dad signed the apology, their hands shaking. "We're sorry, Ryan," Dad said, voice breaking. "We betrayed you both." Ryan nodded, accepting it with grace but no illusions. A month later, we sat around my parents' dining table for a cautious family dinner. Dad's hands bore new calluses from his side job. Mom's nails, once manicured, were bare, her jewelry gone. Chloe arrived late from her new job at a marketing firm. Her attitude humbler. She asked about my promotion to vice president. Genuinely proud. Dad surprised me, suggesting we restore Grandpa's old pickup together. I want to understand what you love, he said, shyly. Mom gave Ryan a framed copy of his car's title. A handwritten note vowing to respect our boundaries. I'm still learning, she admitted. The changes were small but real. Therapy helped Mom see her boundary violations. Dad his enabling. And Chloe her entitlement. I drove my Stingray along the Pacific Coast Highway that weekend. The engine's roar a reminder of what I'd fought for. The car was still my link to Grandpa. But now it symbolized something more, my strength to demand respect. Even from family, and their willingness to change. This ordeal taught me that love doesn't mean excusing betrayal. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. My parents' actions were wrong. But their efforts to make amends showed growth. Chloe's shift from entitlement to accountability gave me hope. And Ryan's support reminded me that true partners face storms together. The Stingray, once a symbol of my past, now represents my refusal to be diminished, and the power of standing firm while leaving room for healing. Have you ever had to confront family who crossed your boundaries? How did you balance accountability with love? Share your story below, and hit subscribe if this resonated. Let's keep the conversation going about respect, redemption, and the things worth fighting for.